When you're caught in a blizzard, every breath feels like battle. The wind howls with a ferocity that numbs all senses, and with every step, the deep snow seeps the strength from your legs. I had ventured out on this snow-covered trail for nothing more than a respite, a temporary escape into the northern woods. It seemed so singularly peaceful and inviting then. Yet now, with the storm swirling in icy chaos all around, peace was a distant memory swallowed by the threat of hypothermia. That's when I saw it, a shadowy silhouette outlined against the blizzard's blinding white. A cabin, seemingly at odds with its isolation, appeared to beckon me with its smallness, its promise of shelter. The dim light leaching through its frost-covered windowpane was an oasis in my wintry hell. My chattering teeth urged me forward, demanding reprieve before the cold claimed my consciousness. As I pushed the door open, the hinges groaned like the last breath of a starved animal. Inside, the room was filled with shadows that curled and stretched, taking on unsettling forms. The fleeting warmth was immediate and false, for the air carried a muted coldness that seeped beneath my skin. But the strangest thing was the silence, eerie in its completeness, like the pause before an unearthly wail. Every fiber of my being screamed to turn around, to leave before. Before what? I couldn't quite name it. But it was there, palpable like the whisper of an unseen spider weaving its web around me. My fingers brushed the wall as I steadied myself, and the roughly hewn wood felt unnaturally warm, as if retaining memories of fires long since extinguished. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching, some presence so intrusive yet so quiet that its very invisibility was its most horrifying trait. It swathed me as sure as the blizzard outside, an unseen force that filled the cabin's empty corners, watching, waiting. I knew, with a certainty that set my skin crawling, that what hid beneath the calmness here was worse than any raging storm. And so the struggle within began. Reason told me to flee, but primal fear held me fast, as if the walls themselves stood to keep me inside. Despite the howling winds battering the windows, the silence inside the cabin grew deafening. I was stranded in that stillness, my heart thrumming a relentless beat that only seemed to draw attention to the oppressive quiet. Each creak of the wooden floorboards felt like a whisper, inviting a terror I couldn't quite name. The air was thick with a palpable tension, as though it too was holding its breath, watching, waiting. I forced myself to move, each step a test of resolve. The dim light filtering through the frosty panes cast long shadows that danced eerily across the walls, stretching and contorting in ways my mind tried to reason with. Somewhere deep inside, a primal fear whispered that I was not alone. I could feel it in the very marrow of my bones, a presence, unseen but undeniably there, lingering just beyond the reach of sight. The cabin was small, a single room with sparse furnishings. A rickety table stood in the center, its wooden surface etched with what looked like claw marks, hinting at stories best left untold. I approached it cautiously, the floorboards groaning beneath my weight as if warning me to turn back. But curiosity tugged me forward, drawing me into its unsettling embrace. As I reached the table, a sudden draft sent a shiver down my spine, the chill far too cold for the small space I occupied. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled with the certainty that eyes unseen were fixed upon me. I spun around, half expecting to confront a specter from the shadows. Nothing, only the bare walls and the silent echo of my own dread-filled breathing. Yet the room felt different, charged, like the air before a storm. A slow, oppressive realization settled over me, one that left my hands trembling as they traced the strange marks on the table. They weren't random. They formed patterns, symbols maybe, coiling together with a purpose I couldn't comprehend. Just then, a soft thud reverberated through the cabin, pulling me from my disoriented thoughts. It came from the corner where shadows pooled thickest, a sound too deliberate to be the house settling. My heart pounded against my ribs like a caged animal, desperate to flee. I took a hesitant step back, eyes fixed on the dark corner that seemed to pulse with an unnatural life. The air, already heavy with foreboding, grew denser still, pressing down on me with a force that stole my breath. Instinct screamed to leave, to plunge back into the storm if need be, anything to escape the growing malevolence that filled the room. But something in the corner shifted, drawing me in with a tantalizing blend of fear and fascination. I wished, at that moment, I hadn't ventured into this accursed shelter, that I'd defied the elements instead of the earth's deep-rooted shadows. Yet as much as terror urged me to retreat, an unnameable force compelled me to step forward. Whatever was there, lingering at the edge of darkness, had waited so very long for me to come. I should have followed my first instinct to sit silently through the night, keeping a wary eye on every corner of that dim, claustrophobic cabin. Yet, driven by a compulsion I neither understood nor welcomed, I found myself rising from the creaky armchair. My feet moved of their own accord, each step sounding like its own miniature thunderstorm in that uncanny silence where not even a mouse dared to whisper. My eyes were drawn towards the hallway, a narrow throat of shadows leading deeper into the belly of this malevolent beast. The storm outside had lost its urgency, paling in comparison to the tempest raging within these four walls. Every inch of that corridor seemed to breathe, a slow, steady exhalation that matched the unsteady pounding of my heart. At the end of the hallway was a door, not remarkable for any particular reason, except that it was shut tight, unlike everything else in the cabin. I could feel the door's presence growing with each step. It watched me without eyes, called me without voice, and waited without patience. The handle was old brass, cold and smooth under my fingers, as though it was rarely touched. My heart thudded in my chest with a rhythm not unlike the rain against the roof. I turned the handle. The door opened reluctantly, groaning with the same terrible inevitability that had brought me to this threshold. Inside was what might have once been a bedroom, long forsaken by whatever soul last warmed its walls. The air was heavy with the scent of decay and neglect, carrying with it the echo of time's unwavering march. Dust motes danced lazily through the beam of my flashlight, settling upon uncovered relics of another life, an old rocking chair, a child's toy. But it was the mirror that arrested my gaze, clamped my breath in my chest. It hung above a dresser, wide and heavy, with an ornate frame tarnished black with age. I had the distinct impression it had been waiting for me, this silent sentinel marking the boundary between the ordinary world and some other reality lurking just beyond reach. Drawing closer, I stared into it, expecting my own reflection to greet me with haggard eyes. Instead, the glass showed. Nothing, no hint of my presence disturbed its surface. And then, slowly, shadows began to coalesce, forming shapes that should not exist in the emptiness of the room behind me. Panic clawed at the edges of my mind. Yet I could not turn away as my reflection finally emerged, not as flesh and blood, but as a study in darkness, an inverted version of myself that grinned with a mouth too wide, too knowing. In that moment, I understood. This cabin, with its silent invitations and invisible breath, was a thing alive, intent on drawing in and duplicating the essence of anyone reckless enough to cross its threshold. The mirror was the doorway, the final snare in a trap as old as the fables that whispered through haunted woods. I staggered backward, fear driving my flight now, instinct overruling curiosity at long last. The cabin seemed to shudder with a silent laugh, its horrific heart revealed and uncaring of my terror. I stumbled through the hallway, every unmeasured step widening the distance between me and the glassy prison grasping at my soul. Bursting into the storm, I was swallowed by the blizzard once more, free from the cabin, but not from the memory of those shadows, nor from the mirror's promise of a return. The night's relentless cold matched the chill that had seeped into my bones, a warning that echoed in the wind's howling refrain. I left the cabin behind, but it did not let go. And though I've put miles between it and myself, I am haunted by one unshakable truth. I can flee far and fast, but shadows stretch unending in the mind, endless and eternal like the storm that scatters these fragile ashes of sanity into the void.